It was New Year's Eve, and Danes found himself aboard a small yacht moored in the calm waters of a secluded bay. His friend Josh had invited him for a weekend getaway to celebrate the arrival of the new year away from the hustle and bustle of the city. At 35 years old, Danes wasn't one for loud parties or crowded gatherings. He preferred the tranquility of the sea. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting vibrant hues across the sky, Danes settled into the cabin with Bailey, Josh's small husky mix who was equally content. Josh had left for a nearby beach party with friends, promising to return before midnight. With the soft sounds of waves lapping against the hull, Danes took the opportunity to relax, listening to music while Bailey snoozed at his feet. A gentle breeze wafted through the open portholes, but as the evening wore on, Danes felt an inexplicable chill creeping into the air. It was a stillness that didn't feel right. Just as he decided to shake off the unease, he heard a faint sound coming from above, a light tapping on the deck. Curiosity piqued, Danes stood and walked towards the stairs leading to the upper deck. "Bailey, stay," he whispered, as the little dog raised her head, ears perked. He reached for the door and opened it, peering into the moonlit darkness. The bay was serene, the only sounds being the distant calls of seabirds and the gentle sway of the boat. Feeling silly for being apprehensive, Danes dismissed the sound as a figment of his imagination. He stepped outside, gazing at the calm water reflecting the stars, when suddenly, he heard it again, this time louder, almost like a whisper. "Danes." A shiver ran down his spine. "Who's there?" He called out, his voice steady despite the rising anxiety. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Just as he was about to retreat back inside, he spotted a figure at the edge of the dock. It was a woman, shrouded in darkness, her hair hanging limply around her face. She wore a tattered dress that billowed slightly in the breeze. "Help me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm lost." Danes felt an unsettling mix of fear and compassion. "What happened? Are you okay?" he asked, keeping his distance. The woman took a step forward, her gaze piercing and intense. "I need to find my way back." "I was." "On a boat," she stammered, her words disjointed. "It sank. I swam here." Something felt off. As the woman moved closer, Danes caught a glimpse of her eyes, wild and unfocused. His instinct screamed for him to retreat. "I think you should sit down." "I'll call for help," he said, trying to sound calm. But before he could turn away, Bailey erupted into a frenzy of barking, her growls echoing through the night. The woman halted, her expression shifting from desperation to something darker. "No, don't call anyone," she shouted, her voice rising in pitch. Heart pounding, Danes stepped back, slamming the door behind him and locking it. The sound of Bailey barking drowned out the woman's frantic pleas. "Please, let me in," she screamed, her hands pounding against the door. "Get away from here." Danes yelled back, trembling as he glanced at Bailey, who was now agitated and pacing. He fumbled for his phone and dialed Josh, his hands shaking. "Josh, there's a woman out here. I think she's..." Before he could finish, the power cut out, plunging the cabin into darkness. The only light came from his phone, which illuminated the room in an eerie glow. He could hear the woman's muffled voice outside, demanding to be let in, her tone shifting from pleading to angry. "Danes," she yelled. "I just want to talk." "You're making a mistake." The hairs on the back of his neck stood up as he felt the weight of her gaze through the door. There was something menacing about the way she spoke. He grabbed a flashlight from the drawer and aimed it at the porthole. When he shone the light outside, his heart dropped. The woman was no longer standing at the door. Instead, she was floating in the water, staring directly at him, her hair and dress swirling around her like seaweed. "Let me in," she called, her voice echoing eerily across the water. "I just want to talk." Danes stumbled backward, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Get away from here." He shouted again, his voice cracking. He felt a surge of panic as the realization sank in this was no ordinary woman. Something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, there was a loud bang on the cabin door. "Let me in. I need to get warm," she insisted, her voice now laced with a desperate urgency that sent chills down Danny's spine. He could see her silhouette against the moonlight, floating just beneath the surface, as if she were both in and out of the water at the same time. Fumbling for the door, he locked it tight and backed away, heart racing. His mind raced with thoughts of escape. Should he jump overboard? Climb out a window? But then came another knock, followed by the sound of splashing. "Help! I'm drowning!" She screamed, her voice echoing. "You're the only one who can save me." Danny's gut twisted. There was something deeply wrong, a malevolence that wrapped around his heart like a vice. He shook his head, whispering to himself, "No, no, no. This can't be happening." Suddenly, the cabin lights flickered back on, revealing the chaos of the room. He glanced at Bailey, who was now barking wildly at the door, teeth bared. The woman's pleas continued, but now they had turned into something sinister. "You're just like the others. You're going to leave me here, aren't you?" Danny's felt trapped, cornered by this entity that had somehow found its way into his life on this tranquil night. His phone buzzed with a text, Josh finally responding. "Danny's, are you okay? I heard about a storm warning. Stay safe." Before he could respond, a violent crash came from the back door, rattling the walls. The woman was trying to break in, the water drenching her clothes and pooling around her as she screamed, "Open up." Double quotes dot in that moment. Something snapped inside Danny's. He realized he couldn't just sit back and let this nightmare unfold. Grabbing Bailey's leash, he opened the cabin door and bolted out onto the deck, heart pounding. The cold air hit him like a slap, the water lapping dangerously close to the boat. The woman stood at the edge of the dock, her face twisted in anger and desperation, water dripping from her matted hair. "You think you can escape? You think you can leave me here?" Danny's ran down the dock, the splashes echoing behind him as he sprinted toward the shore, Bailey trailing close behind. He didn't dare look back, not wanting to see what horror awaited him in the moonlight. Just as he reached the sandy beach, he heard the unmistakable sound of laughter, a high-pitched, chilling laugh that echoed in the night. "You can't run forever, Danny's," she called, her voice fading into the night. "I'll find you." Danny's sprinted up the beach, not stopping until he reached the nearest house, pounding on the door, begging for help. The sound of her laughter lingered in his ears, a reminder that this nightmare was far from over. As he stood there, shivering and terrified, he knew that the new year would not bring the fresh start he had hoped for. Instead, it marked the beginning of a dark chapter, one that would haunt him long after the celebrations faded into distant memories.